Welcome to Building Healthy Relationships, the 4 Habits podcast, helping you enjoy better harmony at home, thrive at work, and win at life. Here are your hosts, Dr. Andrea and Jon Taylor-Cummings, recognised authorities on the subjects of improving work relationships and cultures, as well as couple and home relationships.
Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our podcast. Great to have you joining us, whatever time that you're listening to it in your time zone. We're looking forward to this conversation with none other than the Queen of Behaviours this morning, Vicky O'Farrell. Welcome, Vicky. Thanks for joining us.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for inviting me to join you.
And from the conversations that we've been having so far, we know that we share a like-mindedness on so much. So before we get into the conversation, though, we must give you a proper introduction. So John's going to share your bio with the audience.
Let me do that if my voice will behave. Something slightly croaky going on inside here, but I'll do my best.
A deep husky today.
Okay, all right. So Vicky O'Farrell is a dynamic personality profiler and behavior expert dedicated to helping individuals and teams thrive by understanding themselves and others. Always important to do that bit.
Indeed.
With a passion for people, she inspires others to look in the mirror and uncover their strongest personality traits. Through her engaging and relatable approach, Vicky teaches how to recognize, respect, and adapt to different behavior styles for better relationships, both at work and in life. Again, so many resonances with what we do.
Indeed.
Her motto, we have one lap of life. If you're not happy, change lanes. Wise wisdom there.
Yeah.
Now that motto embodies her philosophy of empowerment and growth, and Vicky's enthusiasm is contagious, making her a true catalyst for positive change. And as Andrea said, we're giving her the name of the Queen of Behaviours. So really looking forward to this conversation. How do we want to jump in?
Well, Vicky, so much passion and energy and enthusiasm behind the work that you're doing, and the audience will hear and see that coming across as you speak. But give us a little bit of the backstory. What got you into this lane, so to speak, and what's driving the passion and the change that you want to see?
So if I take you back about 14 years ago, I actually got fired from my corporate role in London.
That's a wake-up call.
It is. At the time, honestly, the time it happened, I thought this was the worst day of my life. But actually, when I look back now, I think it's probably one of the best things that happened to me. So I started, I think the thing was, I came home, I told my husband, expecting to have this whole and he just said to me, he said, let's just talk about it over dinner. Let's open a bottle of wine and let's discuss what you want to do. He said, because what I don't want you to do is just jump into another corporate role. I'd kind of had enough. I've been doing 20 years of commuting into London, and I kind of thought I'd really want to get out of this rat race, but I don't know what to do. And I'm a bit scared to set up my own business. Because, when you get responsibilities in life, mortgages, that kind of stuff, you suddenly go, oh, hello. But to be fair, this was the kick that I needed. And I set up a business. I've changed names since then, but I just set a business up and I started facilitating other people's training programs and delivering things like that. Whilst I was doing that, I did my coaching qualification with the Coaching Academy. And as part of doing that coaching qualification, they teach you the DISC profiling system for you to how to build rapport with coaching clients. And it was like a light bulb went off for me on that day. Dave Pill, who was the trainer at the time, he's very similar personality to me, but I was just like, I love this. And I thought, in all my years of doing corporate work, I'd done Myers-Briggs, Belbin, all of those other ones. And I really enjoyed the day. But it was like the next day I went back to being me and didn't take it on with me. And the companies that I worked for that did it never did any follow-up. It was like a tick box exercise of just go and do this. So I set the business up and I just focused purely on that. And then I went through the trainer program with the Coaching Academy, and I went through with Dave Pill and Bev James to really understand the whole DISC system and use that as a foundation to build the business, the Queen of Behaviours, to where it is today. And I've learned so much about me in these last 14 years that I've realised I must have rubbed people up the wrong way. I'm going to be careful on what words I use. This is a podcast. But because I am in disc terms, I'm a very extreme yellow. I had no self-awareness, and that probably alienated a lot of people that I worked with. So that's kind of where I am. And so I now have a passion to want to make sure that I feel that everyone in the world should understand what their behaviours and their personality is, because you can't change anyone else. You've got to start by looking in the mirror at your own behaviours and the impact that you have on others.
Yeah, indeed. And you said that you think that you might have rubbed people up the wrong way, but what are the strengths that you discovered, and how did that help you realize that you were in the wrong lane, so to speak, before?
So I spent most of my life in sales, and as a very yellow salesperson, and I create enthusiasm, and I inspire people, and I see things from the positive viewpoint, and it's always getting people along the way, and trying to help other people. And that's fine when I'm with people who want to be helped. You can't. So if I look at the styles that are opposite to me, where I lack that part of my personality, I can't just pull those along with me.
Mhm.
I need to gently nurture them. And that's what I've learned in the last 14 years, is that by gently nurturing people, you can actually take everyone on the journey. But I love speaking, I love inspiring people. That's what part of being a yellow is inspiring and influencing others. And I love it. And I'm told I do it really well by other people. So I just want to help. I want to serve.
So I'm intrigued. As a extreme yellow, you call yourself? I'm not one. I'm in the other quadrant, other end of the diametric opposite. What are some of the things that you've learned that you were doing that were rubbing people up the wrong way, irritating people, just not working for them?
Another I word is probably interrupting.
Mm-hmm.
I get so excited if someone's telling a story or telling something. I'm jumping in with my own stories, so it's bringing it round back about me. Whereas what I've learned now, and I still want to do it. I absolutely do want to do it, but I've learned that if somebody asks a question, say I'm at a conference and somebody else is keynoting, or I'm doing a masterminding session and someone asks a question, I learned to count to 5, look around and see if there's anybody else that wants to join in, as opposed to constantly being. I actually got, so Bev James, who is the CEO of the Coaching Academy, whilst part of the masterminding sessions I've done with her, she called me the donkey from Shrek. She said everybody loves the donkey from Shrek, but do you remember how always interrupting? So I've learned that the minute I want to go, I'm going, count to 5. Does anybody else like to say something? And then, if people aren't, a classic is if somebody asks a question to an audience, I know what that's like to be on stage, to ask a question and the room falls silent. I know it's probably because people are thinking about a question, but I'll always make sure I've got a question handy, so that if somebody doesn't put a hand up straight away, I can be there to be, okay, I can do that. But to remember, it's not about me. It's about the subject, and it's about everybody else's learning experience.
Yeah. And that is such a powerful lesson, such a lesson for life, for how you turn up in all situations. Because quite often, if we're nervous or whatever personality style we have, we tend to make it about us rather than about what we're together in the room to achieve. How have you used your understanding to serve others, and what kind of differences have you seen, if you can give some examples in how it's made a difference in other people's lives?
Yeah, so I guess really, if I talk about the clients that I work with, again, when I first set the business up, if I was just delivering for someone else, I'd probably go in far too yellow when I had a room of perhaps engineers that weren't yellow.
Just pause for a second. Actually, I'm just thinking, for the benefit of the audience who may not know the colors or understand the disc system, can you just give a, I don't know, 1 minute overview of it or
of
something?
what
just,
each color represents.
just so people get a sense.
Absolutely. So DISC stands for 4 parts of our personality: dominant, influence, steadiness, and compliant. Red, yellow, green, and blue, also sometimes used as the colours. So if you are outgoing, you would probably describe yourselves as either dominant or influence, which means that you are red, dominant, outgoing, but very task orientated. And then yellow, dominant, and very people orientated.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come on to the reserved side. So some people might say, I'm just not outgoing. I'm far more reserved. I like to sit back and observe. So if you stayed on the people side of things, you'd be green, you'd be S, steadiness. And if you stayed on the blue side of it, you'd be reserved and task orientated, compliant about the detail. So red is about getting the job done. I is about having fun.
Mm-hmm.
S is about a steady pace. And C is about rules and regulations. And we're a blend of all of them. It's just that one of them will be stronger than others.
Yeah,
indeed. And I want to just jump in for a second and share for our audience who are used to us talking about the animals. So the lion would be red dominant, the otter, fun loving, would be the yellow influencer. The golden retriever would be your steady pace, your very people focused, gentle, nurturing people, which is green. And the beaver would be the compliant, the attention to detail, which is blue. Just to get the colors, the disc, and the animal personalities, so everybody's on the same page now.
Yeah, and there are so many different systems out there. I suppose I fell in love with disc for its simplicity.
Indeed.
And I thought, if it sticks with me as somebody who is very people focused and outgoing, which is the opposite to the blue, the opposite to your beaver, is very, which is very detail orientated. I lack detail.
Yeah.
So I make sure I surround myself with people who don't lack detail.
Now that who don't or who do?
I do. I absolutely do. I didn't, because they were opposite to me, so I couldn't gel.
Yeah.
But actually, now I understand them. I know the value that they bring to me because it's the part that I lack.
And that's 100% what this is about. But you probably heard our story. The audience has certainly heard our story. That was our challenge. We really didn't get each other in a workplace. And it was very frightening because socially we got on so very well. But you were going to tell us about some of the client experiences that you've had and the difference it's made for them as well.
Yeah, so I go in mostly to the corporates and I deal with teams. So I might deal with the senior leadership team, or I might deal with perhaps some new recruits that are coming into the business to really take them back to basics, to help them understand their own behavioural style, but also those around them. So where you can potentially get conflicts in the workplace, let's face it, this happens. And it generally happens with people who are opposite personalities. Now, we know there's a whole other world of what makes us human and makes, values, limiting beliefs, upbringing, culture, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I like to, if I think of the basic, the foundations is your personality, because fundamentally that doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's understanding that actually, Andrea, I know that we're probably more similar. John, you've got more blue, that's the beaver part in you. I just need to understand that actually I need to give you more detail. If I'm going to do a project with you, you don't just want the bullet points, but you want the detail behind those bullet points as to how we're going to get there. And I know that I need to probably rein my fun. Sometimes I can be silly. I try not to be in the world of the work, but I just know that I need to rein that in a bit when I'm working with you, or if I'm actually working with a whole team of people who are reserved. So who are your greens and your blues, your golden retrievers and your beavers. I probably would actually lower the tone of my voice, slower the pace down that I'm talking to, just because that is how they behave. And I think when you flex and adapt to other people's styles, you get a much better working environment. And I've even had some clients where I've gone back in, because so when I go to see my clients, I don't go in because of what I went through in terms of a one-hit wonder. I will always say to my clients, right, what's the value that you want to bring to the team? What do you want to get out of this? Okay, well, I'll come in now, and then I'm going to come back in 6 months' time to make sure that this is embedded. And I now have clients who talk the colours, who embed it as part of their culture in their workplace. And I even get some of them say it's really helped them in their home life, in their marriage, because they realise that they're married to somebody who is the polar opposite personalities, and now they can get to understand them. And I'm like, this is so powerful. It's so powerful. It's helped me and my husband, like you said, as husband and wife, you're very similar when you're in social situations, a bit like me and my husband.
Mm-hmm.
But we are also business partners. So I work in his business, and I didn't realise why we clashed so much. So I got him to take one of these profiles when I first started 10 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, you're so opposite in work mode. You're so blue when you're working. This is why we clash.
Indeed.
And it's been so powerful for us as business partners to understand how different we are when we're in a working environment.
That was us, and the line that we learned back then and that we see unfolding before us every time we share this kind of information is that you're able to be more patient with each other. You understand where they're coming from, so you're able to give more space for them to shine in their strengths and give more grace when they do things that would otherwise rub you up the wrong way. And it's that awareness of self and other, and that common language to describe what you're experiencing that really helps make a difference in the quality of the interaction. So I know we share this passion. Why isn't this standard learning from the very start, like from school? Why don't we understand this stuff from the beginning?
Absolutely. And to me, it's one of those things that actually it's fundamental basics of human behaviour is your personality, because whilst you have all of those other influences up to about the age of 7, don't you, your role models and your life's experiences, your personality generally doesn't shift. If I look back at me as a child, I'm one of 4. I don't actually realise how 4 children from the same parents can be so different. I have to say, me and my siblings are so different.
Personality.
But I am, I am the one that was always, first up to do stuff, always chatting, always talking. And I actually, my late father was the polar opposite to me, very blue. And my mum, she says to me now, she said that's reason probably you just got on with your father, because without realising it, you could read his mood, how he was feeling, and change. You'd know, first of all, the minute he walked in the door, he doesn't need to have gregarious Vicky. He needs peace and calm and peace, harmony, and quiet. And it wouldn't be until after perhaps dinner, when he was then relaxed with a cup of coffee, that I might just go in and go on my school homework and all this kind of stuff. So it's, I've realised that it's the way that I've always been, but now I can, like I say, calm myself down. I'm never going to change. I am who I am. I get that.
Absolutely. And this is the point, we don't want you to change. And I'm sure, like me, this has helped you understand the greatness that you have to offer and some of the criticism that you've had. That I don't know if you have any experiences where you felt really kind of undermined in your strengths because of the criticism that you'd have. I don't know, I've been told in the past that I'm so domineering or difficult or stubborn, and those things as a young person growing up can be very damaging, and you start to adjust or hold back, not realizing that you just need to be more aware of how your strength impacts other people. Any thoughts on how this can help you really stand strong in who you are while still being able to adjust to others?
Yeah, so if I look back at my schooling, if I actually look back at my school reports, I would say that every other page had could do better, talks too much. In fact, my careers teacher actually said to me, you'll come to nothing, Butcher. They used your surname back then. You'll come to nothing, Butcher, because you interrupt and you talk too much.
Wow.
Yeah, but back then, being a professional speaker wasn't a box you could tick.
Exactly.
And I'm like, yes, okay, I talk too much now. I've made a living out of it. But when times were tough at school, perhaps I might have been seen as a bit of a clown, a bit of a joker. But I'd always be there to build morale, boost morale. It was like, come on, we can do this. Let's get going. Yeah, come on. I'm happy to just put myself forward. And I always wanted to be in the school play. I always wanted to be everywhere. And actually, whilst I just realised that there were some teachers that got me. Maths, for example, whilst that's very detailed, I was very good at maths, and my maths teacher would just knew how to get the best out of me. So I thrived in maths, whereas my French teacher had no idea how to deal with me. And so I struggled, and I didn't ever take it as an option in the end. So, and I look back at actually the bosses that I've had in the working environment, those that got me, those that understood me and put me in environments to thrive, I gave more. I didn't just do my day job and Monday to Friday. I did more. I gave more to those that let me be and thrive who I am. Those that tried to clip my wings and squash me, I generally didn't stay in those organisations for very long because it wasn't somewhere that I enjoyed.
So I like to be, I'm glad you said that. I like to be slightly controversial here, but I'm going to pick up on your line where you say, we have one lap of life. If you're not happy, change lanes. What do you say to those people who are in a relationship, whether it's with their partner or whether it's with their boss or colleagues, just don't get each other? We're different people. Do you change lanes? Do you leave relationship? What do you say? What do people do in those situations?
First of all, I'd say you need to understand why this is happening, because you could change lanes and you could find another character exactly the same in the next lane.
Yeah.
So first of all, look in the mirror at your own behaviours. What drives you? What motivates you? What are your core values? Because you could even be with somebody who's very similar personality, but if your values are conflicting, and you can't read value, you can read body language, and words, and you can understand that. You can't read someone's values, but you have to know what your own are to start
Indeed,
with.
Yeah.
That's where it looks at. So don't just change lanes. I absolutely get it. If you are, I'm on a second marriage. My last, shall I say? Repeat that in case Mark watches this. My first husband was a narcissistic man, and you can't change that kind of behaviour. And so it was one where I had to indicate and change lanes, because I probably wouldn't be here now if I didn't. So there are some behaviours that you can't change. But if you're in a working environment, if you're in a relationship, you took the job on when you were offered it for a reason. You got into a relationship for a reason. So go back and look at the reasons that you started that relationship, that job, and think, what's changed? What's changed in this relationship? And we know in personal relationships, people, you go through the honeymoon phase, you go through all of those different phases. But what makes you stronger is that when there is a challenge, that you come together to deal with that challenge. You don't pull apart, but you've got to understand each other's behaviours in order to let that other person help you with the challenge.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued though, Vicky, and thanks for sharing that about the change in relationship due to your current marriage. But did you know the stuff that you know now back then? And might it have made a difference, do you think, if you had known this stuff back then?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't know any of this. I've really only known it for the last 14 years since I've dived deeply into running the business. But if I knew now, I knew. But if I knew now, then would I have married my first husband? I can't say that because I don't know.
Yeah.
I wished I could have read the signs of what a narcissistic personality does. I mean, we didn't even have social media back then. And there's a couple of people I follow on Instagram that do a really great characteristic of how a narcissistic would behave on a first date. And I'm like, yeah, if I'd known that back then, I probably would have been a lot more cautious. But I'm where I am now. I'm who I am today. I don't have. I regret the things I haven't yet done, not the things I have done, because at the time they were the right things for me.
Indeed. And it's such a great point to raise about even what you were saying before. Firstly, the choice that you make in your partner could be different if we had more awareness of ourselves and more awareness of others, because it's so easy to be crushed or to be undermined in the light that you bring to any relationship if you don't understand this is my strength and this is how I need to adjust my behavior. And it also really underscores how important it is for leaders and managers to know this stuff so they can lead well. What are your thoughts or experiences around the difference a manager makes?
Oh, a huge amount of difference. So to me, what makes a great manager is somebody that's got very much self-awareness about their own behaviours, but that also has an awareness of their team's behaviours, and flexes and adapts their management style for each individual person. A bad manager, in my books, is somebody who may have self-awareness, but doesn't change how they manage. They manage everybody. It's like blanket management. This is how I manage. And it's like, well, you can't manage someone who's got a very red character the same as somebody who's got a very green character. And the same with a yellow and a blue. You know, you can't manage a gold. When you think about your animals, you've got a lion and a golden retriever.
Indeed.
You know, if you were training a lion, you'd want to just get it done, wouldn't you? Move out the way. But a golden retriever is there to serve. It's there. You take it on a slower pace. You want it to be with you. It's a loyal character. So you can't manage everyone the same. And that's, to me, that I've learned that just from having great managers and bad managers. But I sometimes look and think, is it actually the organizations that need to look? Because we employ people, don't we? We recruit people, and then we give them a training program, and we give them, those first 6 months to nurture them and to bring them on. And okay, some people don't always make it past that, what we call probation period. And then when people do, that's great. And then people get promoted. Jobs are asked and people go, well, you're a great salesperson, therefore you'll make a great sales manager. No, that is not the case, as we know. But when somebody goes into that role, say we think, oh, you'll make a great sales manager, and somebody like me would go, oh, really? Do you think so? Great. Okay, I'll take that. And you go for the promotion and you go through it. And then you just expect that person in that new role to thrive. But no one's given me the tools to be a great manager. I'm now suddenly managing a team of people who I used to be an equal to, and now they're looking at me as their manager, and now I've got a different relationship with them. Oh my, somebody help me.
Yeah.
And you don't get that probation period to say, actually, I don't want this role. It's not for me. Can I go back to just being a sales exec? Or the company saying, we need to give you some more training because there's a skills gap. And so you end up, I feel, with lots of managers in roles that they're not equipped for. And I think you don't need to just look at the individual. You need to look at the organization to say you aren't supporting the people you're promoting.
Yeah, setting them up to fail. It's like the line I think I've heard in the past is promoting people to their level of incompetence rather than helping to fill a gap and give them the competence to thrive in that role. But
Absolutely.
what you said there made me question as well. Is it just the organization's responsibility, or is it our responsibilities as individuals? Whatever course we end up taking in life, should it be our responsibility to build this awareness?
Absolutely. It's the responsibility of both parties. It's the responsibility of the person who's been promoted to say, I need some support. I'm absolutely, thrilled that I'm here, but I need some manager, so like you get courses for new managers, new directors, go and find, it's your responsibility to say, this is what I feel I have a skills gap in. So I found this course. Can I go and attend?
Yeah.
Can I have a coach? Can I have a mentor? And it's up for the organisation to sit and say, right, you're new into this role. How are you getting on? Because it's a world of two-way communication, isn't it?
Yeah.
That it's for me to say what I need, but it's also for the organisation to identify where they see the skills gap. Because what I think I might need, if I sat down with somebody, I might say, no, you're really good at that. But what I can see a gap in is this. And therefore, I think you'd be really good at doing this program.
Yeah.
So it's for all of us to talk to each other.
That would serve. I'm just conscious of the time. I mean, we can get stuck into our own world here talking about behaviors.
I'm conscious that my hot lemon has run out here and my coughing just continues. But I wanted to have a quick conversation about, as we're in the space of behaviors, conversation around toxic talent, because we were having a conversation just about that recently with a friend, and actually in a workshop we were doing as well. And the point that came up was, how do you handle if you're in a team setting and you've got somebody who is great at their job, they're delivering, but their behaviors are toxic. Any tips on that? Because generally what happens is everybody goes. What's a nice way to say it? But they don't address it. They tiptoe around those people because they're delivering. They've got great, they're bringing the numbers in all the time. We're like, we'll just let them get away with their bad behaviors.
And typically, it's a lot of red in there in the way they turn up, especially under pressure.
Yeah. Any tips or guidance for how you handle that kind of behavior in a team setting, or what should a manager do?
Well, a manager needs to understand that it's for them as the manager to have that conversation, and difficult conversations are difficult to have. That's why they're called difficult conversations. But we need to know how to have difficult conversations, because having a difficult conversation with a red is very different to having a difficult conversation with a green.
Yeah.
A lion, a golden retriever, a beaver, an otter, you would have different conversations with each of them. So it's up for the manager to make sure that they are skilled to have difficult conversations, and that you can't let toxic behavior continue, because it spreads. It's like a virus, and it then ends up being a very toxic environment to work in, and people won't want to stay. And there's no point in having one top salesperson if everyone is constantly on churn.
The challenge, though, I thought you were going to ask what happens when that person is the manager. That's for the senior. Because sometimes the team is subjected to this behavior because they're the top performer in terms of money coming in, and we've seen it where senior management are hesitant to correct that behavior because there's such a it takes a lot of courage to say no to the money and yes and correct the behaviors that you want to see as the culture in the firm.
Yeah,
I think you also then have to just look at it from a financial perspective, in terms of, yes, they might be bringing in the top revenue, but what's it actually costing you for that? What is the churn in the staff? What is the sickness in the teams that are below them? And actually go, and we're human, and you might find that people who do have that toxic management style, no self-awareness, absolutely no idea what impact they're having. And actually, if you took them aside and said and had a difficult conversation, but in a constructive way that suits their personality style, then you could find that you get a completely different manager. And maybe sometimes those conversations end up with the toxic person leaving the organisation. And whilst that's not what we want people to do, sometimes it's for the best.
Yeah, especially if it's going to take a while and they're doing a lot of damage in the meantime.
One of the guys in the workshop we were running, where we were having this conversation about toxic behaviors, his view was, got toxic talent in the team, get rid of them.
That's very red.
He was very red. He wasn't messing around.
Have them leave the job, but go to Vicky for better self-awareness and behaviors next time round. What would you say? What would you like to leave people with, Vicky, as the thing that you would encourage them to do, to focus on, to make a priority of? What's, if you were to zero it in on something, what would you say to the audience?
I would say that behaviours start with you. You need to look in the mirror and understand your own style, because you can't change anybody else.
Indeed,
But when you understand yourself and your personality and your values, what drives you, then you can learn to read other people and flex and adapt to them to get the best out of life, because you do only have one lap of this thing called life, and it's hard enough as it is just living life. So if we can all try and get on and make this a better world, that would be amazing.
Amazing.
And if you have annoying habits, do you want to be changing those habits, or do you want to be asking other people to just cut me some slack with my annoying habits?
What do you call an annoying habit? If I find I have my own annoying habit, it's for me to sort out. If I have an annoying habit that my husband doesn't, like interrupting and talking over him, it's for him to make me aware when I'm doing it, so that I can then have self-awareness, because habits are formed in your subconscious. Mm-hmm. We need to bring it into the conscious mind to change the habit, to put it back into the subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I was being provocative of that, because I think part of the challenge is many of us, even when we're told we have these annoying habits, we're annoying other people, we think, well, that's what it's almost like it's the lazy thing for me to do. I just want to continue. That's me. I want to continue doing that. Can you just cut me some slack with that? When really, so we say relationships take work. Actually, the thing that we need to do, in our view, is understand what I'm doing and actually stop doing some of those things, because I am irritating people. And as you rightly say, if I keep irritating people and they decide they don't want to stick around, then I'm probably, if I don't learn, I may end up with somebody else, whether again work setting or home setting. I'm just going to do the same thing and irritate other people and keep repeating the pattern. So ultimately, we have to take responsibility, as you rightly say, for ourselves and change the things that we're doing.
But I love the point that Vicky made, because this is a key point in this whole conversation. Sometimes our strengths can be seen as irritations to other people, and we need to manage how we deal with that, because you don't want to get rid of the strength, but you want to be more aware of the impact it's having on others and adjusting. You're nodding. I think I took some words out of your mouth there, Vicky. What did you want to say to that?
No, it's like you say, it's being very aware. I tell you what, actually being a podcast host has really helped me. Ask a question and then shut up. Being so yellow. Yeah, I've before, because outgoing people have an external thought process. So I'll ask a question, but if I've asked it to somebody who's more reserved, they're internalizing that thought before they answer it. But I've got silence and I don't like silence. So I'm going to reframe the question and I'm going to ask it again. Mm-hmm. And it's that whole point. I've learned, ask the question. If the person doesn't understand and there's a silence, go, are you okay with that? It's just self-awareness.
Yeah. And the learning, so powerful. And we, as you know, are on exactly the same page. I think we're all having morning voice of some type this morning.
I'm just staying relatively quiet here. My voice ain't up to today.
But we're so on the same page about really learning to appreciate the strengths that we bring to the world, how they impact other people, and how we might need to adjust depending on the other personality style that we're with. So, Vicky, if people want to get in touch with you or find out more about what you do and how you can help them become more self-aware, where do they look? What do they do? How do they connect with you?
If you go to the website queenofbehaviours.com, you'll find all the contact details, all the social media links everywhere. I hang around on most platforms. I've even got a TikTok account.
Oh, well done.
Okay.
Just for the podcast. But yeah, queenofbehaviours.com is the best place to find all the details to get a hold of me.
Amazing.
Put that in the show notes, just so people can have something to just click on. So nice and easy. Well, Vicky, it's been great having you. It's been great reconnecting since we first met a long time ago back in your corporate world. But great to see the work that you're doing. As you say, it's an important work in exactly the same space that we're in terms of helping people get more. We like to say get more understanding so you can be more understanding. Understand yourself, self-awareness, and then other awareness so you can get on better with the people. So maybe you don't have to change those lanes unless it's absolutely essential to do that. So really, really good having you with us. Thanks for being with us.
I think it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Thanks to our audience around the world again, listening in, tuning in. Trust you've been inspired by this, and it's great to have the clarity on the disc model, got the colors to map the onto the animals. Some people prefer the colors, and they've used that, so it's great to have that mapping. So thanks for doing that for us, Vicky. And
my pleasure.
Look forward to the next time.
I do, very much so. Take care.
Take care. Bye, everybody.
We hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you did, and you want to hear more, the best thing to do is subscribe. Then you'll never miss an episode. There's a new one every Friday. You can stay connected with us on social media at The 4 Habits for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and to participate in discussions related to the show. We always love to hear from you. And of course, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review on your preferred platform to allow us to reach more listeners and help people around the globe radically transform the way they do relationships so they too can enjoy better harmony at home, thrive at work, and win at life.